Theme park employees, what are some cool secrets about your workplace? Some Cedar Point secrets. Some of these are from friends who have worked around the park. You probably already knew this, but that $3.50 bottle of soda is $1 2 steps behind an employee gate. Same goes for most of the food in the cafeteria. On most of the larger attractions and rides, we have a system of signals and gestures to make fun of you behind your back. It keeps the long, repetitive and hot day somewhat interesting. Never, ever will we tell you what is wrong with a ride. Also, we'll never tell you when it's going to be up. The only differentiation we can make is if we're told it's going to be a multiple hour fix. At that point, we anticipate a lengthy delay. Yup, we usually know what is wrong and how long it's going to take. Employee dorms could probably double for a gay male brothel. Many times we're instructed to take cars off of a coaster simply because of attendance numbers. They don't tell us that officially. Simply no need to have 3/3 cars on the track when the park is at 50% capacity. Yep, that makes lines longer. Sorry, disaster transport $1 3D glasses are a ripoff considering how short the ride is. But you already knew that. It's fun to watch you flash the ride cameras. We block the pictures on the monitors but can still see them behind the counter. We can also unblock them. All I can think of. Not really theme park, but I used to work at Chuck E. Cheese. Secret. Pretty much everyone there hates kids with an undying fury. One time, a friend of mine started his first day and we had him in the Chuck E. costume and a kid came up and punched him in the balls. Without flinching, my friend decked the little crap right in the face. His parents weren't around so we rushed my friend to the back and told the parents the kid fell. Needless to say, my friend was fired that same day. Your friend is a hero. It is no longer available, but SeaWorld used to serve free beer. As a resident of San Diego, I would buy an annual pass for $74, drive to SeaWorld a few times a week after work, drink a few free beers, and go home. Sadly, it ended in 2009. But boy howdy was it great while it lasted. I'm glad someone had sense and did this also. It's really hard to sign the autographs in some of the costumes. In some of the characters you look through the mouth, but have to act like you're looking with the eyes of the character, which means most of their head is above your own. The heads can be really frickin' heavy and stuffy. Lilo was the worst. Plus the water parks are really humid. I almost passed out. CPs at Disney World get free Gatorade. It's the yellow kind. Every Disney prince I met was a gay man. Getting free park entrance was the best part of working there. The pay was the worst. If you see a character rub their eye, it means they need to go backstage because they're going to pass out, feel sick, or are having some sort of costume malfunction. I had to do this twice as Lilo because that costume was frickin' terrible. It's Powerade, not Gatorade, Coke sponsorship, remember, and it's yellow for a reason. Red looks too much like blood when you puke it up. How many of you have had your plans ruined by some meddling kids and their dog? Only the once, but I had my revenge. Let's just say I know exactly how and why Scrappy Doo never made it to adulthood. I used to work at a place called Camelot Theme Park. It's a modest place in the northwest of England. It was also my first job. I was rides operator, but worked in what they called Section 1, which was the part of the park with all the kids' rides. Years before worked there, some employee was apparently killed after being hit by a roller coaster during safety checks, but I'm not sure how much of that is myth. Anyway, relating to the how things work bit in this question, there was a ride there that had been around since it opened in the mid-80s known as the Caterpillar Apple Ride. The cart train was modeled on a giant caterpillar and it went through a big red apple halfway around the track. It was aimed at toddlers and small kids really, but by god it was the most primitive roller coaster I've ever seen. Apart from the chain that pulled it up to the top of the main dip, it ran completely on gravity, and to start the ride you released the brakes, which were clamps on the tracks, not the cart itself, and literally had to push it out of the station. If you didn't push it hard enough it would slow down and stop before the foot of the hill and you'd have to call maintenance to get the stranded people out. My first day operating the ride, the brakes were faulty. It was only meant to go round the track twice. I ended up making it go round 15 times. I went once for about 5 minutes. My mum thought it was really chavvy there. I was so pee at her, comma. Here are some secrets from the wizarding world of Harry Potter. The costumes worn by the team members were designed by Potter costume designer Janie Tamime. Some of the Hogwarts costumes worn by TMs working Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey were actually used in the films and worn by extras. TMs working Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey are sorted into houses based on their height. Universal operations, merchandise and food service TMs may usually wear their work wardrobe home. However, the Wizarding World wardrobe items are the only wardrobe items that these TMs may not take home. TMs caught doing so will be immediately terminated and may face criminal charges for theft and IP theft if they do so. After the Three Broomsticks restaurant was designed, the real film set was altered to more closely resemble the theme park restaurant. The male dress robes seen in the Gladrags Wizarding Wear storefront are the same ones worn by Daniel Radcliffe in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The female dress robes are an exact replica of the ones worn by Emma Watson in the same film. The TMs who work in that area are encouraged to act in character, but they may not say anything that would add to the Harry Potter story. For example, they may not say they know Harry, Dumbledore, or any of the characters, or say what those characters may or may not like or do. For example, if you see a little girl with a stuffed cat, you can say I like your kitty. I have a kitty like that at home. You may not say oh, I'll bet Hermione would like your kitty. I didn't work at a theme park, but my high school English teacher worked for Disneyland while he was in college and told us stories a lot. He said Chip and Dale were the most disgusting guys ever and would have contests to see who could grope the most MILFs in a day. My buddy got thrown out of Disneyland for punching Dale after he groped his wife. At WDW's Magic Kingdom, the food served in the employee cafeteria, or mouseketeria, is not the same food served to the guests. It's run by Aramark Food Services and is much worse. There's a Subway restaurant down there they also run, but they don't participate in any national Subway promotions. $5 footlongs? Nope. Still, it's cheaper than the food served topside. And if you're caught taking food from the cafeteria to the top, especially if you're buying it for visiting family or friends who are playing in the park, you can be fired. Spent a summer working games at Hershey Park. Not the most exciting things to be learned, but here we go. All of the popular games have cameras installed in them. That means ring toss. Ring toss is 4 cameras. It's because if the attendant gets distracted and a ring lands on the outer 2 ring of bottles, you have to call it in. People notoriously have little kids lean over and just place it and try and guilt the attendant into giving away big butt bears. When you play Wacky Winding Wires, by July, all of the new employees can beat that game. Does not mean we will bend the rules if we hear that annoying buzzer, but it also doesn't mean we can't tell you which game station has a smaller ring or larger ring. It can make a large difference. Only one place in the entire park sells beer, and that is the Minetown Cafe right by the Great Bear. Check out the smoothie place in the food court area. They are amazing and vastly underrated. Every year, 1% of all profits from Hershey Park and Hershey's chocolate goes to the Milton Hershey School, which was originally a school for orphans, but will now also help kids whose parents can't afford to send them to school. This means the school will never go bankrupt, ever. That school is worth over $1 billion. If you live somewhere close to Hershey Park, make friends with the employees. They get 2 free tickets per paycheck, 15% off everything in the park, and 25% off everything in Chocolate World. This means make friends with an employee, give them your money and make them buy your chocolate for you. Employees can buy the prizes in the game stalls. I know you're thinking, who'd buy a crappy butt dolphin that costs less than a nickel to make? But we love giant butt teddy bears as big as them and they make great birthday gifts. That does not mean we can buy them for guests. This can get us fired. If you are thirsty but also a cheapskate, food vendors can give out free cups of water. Employees have their own cafe outside the park, and it's got all the foods we serve in park, minus the delicious smoothies GRR, at like 75% off. Those $8 burgers are only $2 and are made to order, unlike the generic cheeseburger you get in park. We also had a weekly meals such as Salisbury steak, breakfast for lunch, etc. All I got for now. If I think of some later, I'll add them. Feel free to ask about my time there. I worked for a long time at Santa's Village in Sky Forest, California. It's closed now. but it was pretty famous to Southern Californians at the time. There was a dead rat in the nacho machine, under the metal slope that holds the chips, at the Pixie Pantry for at least a year. We had dead rats pretty much everywhere, just out of sight. The deep fryer oil in the Pixie Pantry was never changed. The insects were just scooped out with a mesh spoon. All the burgers were cooked in the morning and kept in a bucket of water until someone ordered one. Most of the order fresh food vendors were clean enough. Santa Claus was a huge chain smoker. He smelled horrible. The B monorail was known to catch on fire. The bobsled coaster derailed at least once, sending the riders to the hospital. We had a similar accident with the horse-drawn carriage. I don't think any ride operators were actually trained for emergencies. Kids puke a lot. You probably already knew that. Grew up in San Bernardino and the commercials for the place made it seem like a junior Disneyland. Finally went there when I was 10 or so and was immensely disappointed. I worked last summer for Valley Fair, a park in Minnesota owned by the people who own Cedar Fair. These aren't as cool as the Disney World ones, but I have a few. Behind the Renegade coaster is an original Edsel Ranger sitting on a grassy hill. I don't know what it's for and no one there I asked seems to know either. Buy a season pass. As of last year parking is included, and they cost $60 at the beginning of the season. Regular admission is $48 and parking is $10. Our lifeguards are completely incompetent. They get audited randomly throughout the season, where the company stages an emergency and the guards have to save someone. Almost all of them fail and have to go through training again. People lose a ton of money on rides. I worked in park services, park cleanup, and once found $28 in a day just in bills dropped from a roller coaster. I worked in the games department for 2 summers. Best summers of my life. Games are not rigged, they just require a lot of luck as the odds are against you. One time an NBA player came to play the 3-point challenge. He won. The auditions for characters are tough. To be a face character, they line you up and analyze your bone structure before they do anything else. If your figure, height and bone structure aren't right, you don't even get to go any further in the audition. It's fun though. 3 plus the underground passages in the main park, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, are pretty awesome, but can be creepy. They aren't all bright and colorful. It's a tunnel system, not an attraction. My childhood nearly fell to pieces when I saw a bench with my favorite characters' heads all lined up in a row on it. I went to school with a girl named Jasmine who looked freakishly like Princess Jasmine. Then she grew up, became a dancer singer, and performed as Princess Jasmine at Tokyo Disney. Being from Orlando, I have worked all the theme parks. Since this thread is overwhelmed with Disney facts, I will instead tell you something about my employment with Wet n Wild. If an attractive, large busted woman was at the top of the slide, the guy working at the bottom of the ride would give the secret boob signal for the lifeguard up top. This was code for the lifeguard to send her down the slide with her hands interlocked behind her head instead of her arms folded across her chest. If a person's arms are folded across the chest, this method prevents wardrobe malfunctions, which is a reason why it is the policy to do so. Because when the hands are interlocked behind the head, it prevents the said female from covering her escaping breasts. It goes without saying that this led to optimal boobage for the lifeguard waiting below. Oh, to reminisce on those scenes. Me gawking at those helpless girls through my mirrored sunglasses as they failed to realize that their bosom was exposed for all to see. In retrospect, this may have been an inappropriate use of power. It is also worth noting that when purchasing sunglasses for lifeguarding, the ideal pair will have dark lenses, thus allowing your eyes to wander upon the exposed breasts completely unnoticed. This was another very well-known fact on the job. And it's too late, I've already seen it all. At my park, we spared no expense. We told the public that we breed all the dinosaurs on our island, but that just isn't true. When you are working with such volatile things as extinct animals, the yield isn't 100%, so we actually do most of our breeding and research on a second island a few miles away. You know all your crap that you lose at Walt Disney World? Well, after 90 days of being unclaimed, it gets shipped to a cast-only shopping area in the back of Magic Kingdom parking lot, where it is sold to the slowly cast members for a huge discount. Cheap cameras and phones and such. However, When I was working attractions, a lot of the best lost stuff never even made it to Lost and Found. Co-workers would take the items. I know a few that had 5-6 digital cameras and were collecting them. I never understood it. Water is by law free if you go up to any food stand and ask for it. But if you ask for magic water, I guarantee that 9 times out of 10 you'll get a free cup of Sprite. Magic water sounds like a code name for some vodka laced with H or something. I work for Worlds of Fun out in Kansas City for about 7 years. I have a few things to add, but the other Cedar Fair parks seem to have it on the money. These are mostly game related things since that was my department. Despite what you may choose to believe, in games we actually want you to win. How many times you win now, that's debatable. A side point to the games, they are all winnable. Some of them are just really hard. If you have a little kid and are generally pretty nice to the employee in the game and your kid doesn't win, most of us will generally be really nice and let them try a game for free or give them some smaller plush for trying. No, we cannot sell giant plush to you, stop asking. Yes, we really do have cameras in all the games and they do work. Seriously, we cannot sell crap to you or give you something for free. 3-point challenge at any Cedar Fair park is completely winnable. I've seen it done. Management, unless you're in a leadership position, will hate you. It's just a fact you have to face. It is actually ridiculously hard to fire bad employees. I have no idea why, but it took us 3 months to fire someone who was tardy literally every single day, by at least an hour, and sometimes never showed up for a shift. Red means stop. Red tags are jail bait. Red tag is any employee between 15 or 14 years old. Eat before you get there. The food is crap and where it's made is worse. You can also leave and come back and just pay for parking again. It's way better than getting terrible overpriced food. The Prowler, Mamba, and Monsoon are the best rides in the park, and the only ones that don't break down at the drop of a dime. If you have a friend that works at the park and is willing to do so, have them use your vehicle information for an additional employee parking pass. You get an extra for free. This plus a season pass equals extra savings. I hate to be the one to spoil it for everyone, but the characters that you see walking around are actually just people in costumes. Hopefully I didn't shatter too many childhood dreams. It's mostly pee. The back. The part guests can't see of the Legoland Billund Castle, Borgen, is a flat, sky blue brick wall. Sorry, that wasn't cool. I don't work anywhere cool like Disneyland or Cedar Point, but I did work at a small, local amusement park. The big secret here is that some of these rides are more dangerous than they look, and all of them are staffed by minimum wage high school or college students. It's a winning combination. Also, the park has paid people to keep quiet about injuries. I'm unsure if that's common practice in the amusement world. I used to work at a theme park called Santa's Village about 10 years ago. My first day they quickly certified me to run the big roller coaster they had. I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm standing there watching the cars go around and I noticed a huge beam that holds the coaster up is snapped in half. It was attached to the ground and attached to the track, but was snapped in half, and the part hanging from the track was swinging in the wind and pulling the track down with it. The maintenance guys quickly welded it back together and reopened the ride. Frick that. I also drove this fire truck thing where a miniature house would catch on fire and the fire truck would drive to it and the kids would use hoses to put it out. Well, one day while driving it, the fricking truck overheated and had caught on fire. The whole place was falling apart and nobody seemed to give a crap. Thank God that death trap of an amusement park went bankrupt. There are several fences on the sides of buildings at Cedar Point. Usually inside of these fenced areas is a vending machine selling soda and water for $1.25, not for $6. A protein spill means someone puked. Also, hidden passages everywhere. I kid you not. I think I'd rather clean up puke than protein, if you know what I mean. I know a Thorpe Park in England that the manager has a special relationship with the roller coaster fan club, and every time a new roller coaster is opened the entire club gets invited to the park, which then stays open 2 hours later just for them, on just that ride. The rest of the park is shut down and everyone else is kicked out, but that one ride is kept open. I used to be a vet tech for Jurassic Park Triceratops Encounter at IOA. This used to be one of the main attractions in Jurassic Park. It was shut down for a while and I just saw they reopened it. Jurassic Park being my still favorite franchises, I try to add my own flair and modifying my uniform to accommodate a Triceratops belt buckle. That was a big no number. Before I actually started to work with the robot, we had to go to Dino classes and learn all these bogus facts that Universal wanted you to answer if guests had questions. One question, I swear, was, how big is a T-Rex testicle? Answer, about the size of a basketball. The one the vet tech is holding controls the different modes of the dinosaur as well as the sneeze function. There are mats that detect movement underfoot which if accidentally stepped on immediately freezes the dinosaur, just in case someone tries to hop the gate. My favorite was there is a small button behind the frill of the Triceratops that once pushed sets the dino's to rage mode. We were forbidden to push it with threats of termination if we did so. I would push it all the time and ad lib. I got a lot more. It was about 9 years. Everything ran on Windows 98 which caused everything to break down all the time. My spelling is bad and I'm on an iPhone so suck it grammar Nazis. Custodians in the park. They are the guys girls who walk around in all white with little hip packs with paper towels and stuff and then carry these little cards. I can't remember what they are called but I remember the year I was there they had Pinocchio on them. Anyways, they're cards that if your child has an accident, throws up, or does one of those things that would honestly just ruin the frick out of their day, a custodian can go with you into any Disneyland store, turn their card into a supervisor at that store, and give you new clothes for them. For free. I worked there 1.5 years and only ever used mine once. They are rare and almost nobody remembers they have them. It's not just for kids either. Say you throw up on yourself or your GF gets her period early or something. Boom, new crap so you don't have to go home in tears of embarrassment. So next time you see someone have a crappy day at Disneyland, refer them to a custodian and it might get less crappy real fast. Not an employee, but apparently theme parks take sneaking in pretty seriously. I sat drunkenly in interrogation for over an hour tonight and had to bail my friend out of jail because he told the ladder cop to frick off. You fat bee. We went in under a fence and got snagged pretty quickly. Overall, worth the 4th degree misdemeanor. Depends on the theme park. I broke into our local historical park and everything went better than expected. Not sure if it's a secret, but Disney World has an entire underground system of accessible walking passages. You can crawl down one manhole in Frontierland and pop up in Tomorrowland, but it's really like a bunch of cement hallways and doors. Universal Islands of Adventure. Cats everywhere. Seriously, if you work at IOA and walk through the park at nighttime, don't stop. They're watching you. Hunting. Disneyland and DCA have about 200 feral cats that roam the parks at night. Instead of trying to capture and move them, they just have a neuter and release policy. Any kittens are given to loving homes. On top of that, there are 5 feeding stations hidden throughout the parks. It's a great way of keeping the park's rodent population down apparently. Here are some better Cedar Point secrets. Most employees who used to work on rides have taken excess ride parts that were never installed. I have a limit switch and some other minor items. Some of my friends have old seatbelts and proxies. Yeah, we can never tell you what is wrong with the ride, or how long it's going to be down, but we almost always know exactly what's wrong and about how long it's going to take. No, we usually don't have stupid hand gestures for crap behind your back. Well, maybe some rides do, but none of the 8 rides I worked on did. Dragster is running super slow this year because there is no multi-move due to a train throwing off some procs when running like that. If people actually know what this means, I'll explain more. The red phone on the rides are not the bad phones that everyone thinks they are. They are the phones used for communication on the ride. It's the white phone that goes to outside places, maintenance, park operation, etc. Someone mentioned the overpriced soda, but it gets worse. I'm pretty sure Cedar Point gets all the soda for free from Pepsi since Pepsi likes advertising in the park. Beach Boys plays in the queue lines because people were trying to appease Don Kinzel, Cedar Fair CEO. If you are in butthole to a ride operator, you will probably be stapled to your seat during the ride. The employee quality may have seemed to go down there. That's because everyone that was well trained on the rides left because of how terrible they treat their employees and how much they overwork them. No overtime. Ohio seasonal employment exemption written for amusement parks that Cedar Point specifically lobbied for. People have crazy stories about bad stuff happening in the park, but Cedar Point is one of the safest parks in the world by far. Like, it's not even a question if you see what goes down at other parks. One of the most dangerous rides in the park is Skyride. Yeah, the slowly floating cabins. People at the other end have to slow and stop them manually. At full capacity, they are coming in every 7 seconds. Cedar Point is the only park left with a ride like this, possibly because they have never had a serious accident on it. There are lots more, but those are some of the basics. I worked at Michigan's Adventure, owned by Cedar Point, for a while. Not too much that hasn't already been said, but I do know that most people running the rides at that park are hungover or maybe drunk. We only got 3 call-ins before we were fired, and I was told that even if I threw up on a guest, I would not get to go home. I knew of a guy who took all the safety clips off the children's rides, the buckles that require a key to open so that the kids don't open them themselves on the ride. Riding a water ride? Don't. You don't even want to know what is in that water. AFR in a water park means accidental fecal release, and if you see lifeguards keeping you out of a pool, don't go back in, because that's what just happened, and it happens way more often than you think. Nothing is safe. Please don't ask what's wrong with the ride if it's down. We can't tell you, because if we did, you wouldn't actually know what was happening, and would freak out. Just because the safety harness is malfunctioning doesn't mean a few good hits from a maintenance guy won't make it work again soon. I also worked at Disney, and that's been covered extensively. I worked the safari ride, if anyone is interested. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.